Every year on April 28th, we gather to acknowledge the workers who have died either on or as a result of their job. People are just out trying to make ends meet for their families who tragically never come home, or those who are working in an environment where they are being unknowingly exposed to things that will determine how they die. I think if given the chance, every one of these 165 Albertans who we honor today would gladly have done some other kind of work if they knew the simple act of going to work would have cost them their lives. As an injured worker, today holds a special relevance for me. It allows me to reflect on how lucky I am that I was able to return home from work after my accident, despite it being a month later. No matter how much I enjoyed the work I was doing, it wasn't worth dying for. Though we can't gather in person this year, the enduring message of Day of Mourning is even more relevant now, as we pause to remember those we lost while we fight tooth and nail to ensure the safety of frontline workers who are seeing us through this pandemic. The obelisk behind me reads, "A broken family is still a family, with broken dreams and broken hearts. Here stands a memorial for those who have died at work, those who are left behind. Look to the future, remember the past, and let their deaths not be in vain. Mourn the dead and fight for the living." So please remember these 3 rights that every Canadian gets to enjoy, and don't let any boss convince you otherwise. You have the right to know about the hazards in your workplace and receive the training that you need to be able to do your job safely. You have the right to participate in decisions that could affect your health and safety, and you have the right to refuse work that could endanger your health or that of others. These are not rights to be taken frivolously, nor can they be pushed aside in the face of a pandemic. In fact, this pandemic highlights where we need to fight to strengthen these rights. It is with all this in mind that we ask you to please stay safe out there. No job is worth losing your life for.
Today is a day of mourning, where we remember those whose lives have been lost and whose lives have been changed by workplace injuries and illnesses. The Alberta Workers Compensation Board lists 165 people who died in Alberta last year from workplace incidents or exposures. Additionally, there are about 50,000 serious injuries accepted by WCB every year. But researchers suggest that the actual amount of serious injuries every year in Alberta is much higher, about 170,000. Many injuries or illnesses go unreported or are not recognized by the WCB. It's important to remember that these numbers are people, our family, friends, co-workers, community members. These numbers are also people whose work situations mean they are separated from their family, whose communities are not physically close. Something we may all be able to relate to right now. Next year, on the Day of Mourning, we will very likely be thinking about all the workers infected by COVID-19 and those workers struggling with serious mental health issues brought on by this pandemic. But these workers may not be reflected in next year's official numbers because essential service workers who are at high risk for exposure are not presumptively covered by WCB. We are living in hard times, where many workers are being exposed to a virus for which there is currently no vaccine. Workers need to be protected now. And there are many workers collectively demanding this protection for themselves and others. And there are other workers who, as individuals, are using their right to refuse dangerous work to ensure their employers are putting appropriate protective measures in place. But there will also be a need to protect workers in the near future. As pressure mounts to get the economy moving, there will be some loud voices saying that current workplace legislation is a barrier, is inefficient, is red tape. But workplace health and safety legislation is there to ensure workers' lives are protected. And cutting it in the name of red tape reduction will put people in danger. We must be ready to challenge this. On this day of mourning, let us remember and honor all those workers who died or were injured or were made sick by their work. And like so many of us are doing every day right now, let us continue to fight like hell for the living, because an injury to one is an injury to all.
April 28th is the day we set aside to remember all the workers who have been killed, injured, or who have contracted an illness while at work. It's always a poignant day for those of us in the labor movement, but this year, with the spread of the COVID-19 virus, it's taken on an increased sense of urgency. As I record this segment, here in Alberta, we've actually recorded our first COVID-19 related workplace death. A brother working at the meatpacking plant at Cargill and High River lost his life as a result of contracting the virus while at work. And we also know that more than 400 of his coworkers have also contracted the virus, and there are at least 2 others from that plant in a hospital in Calgary right now. So today we mourn those who we have lost, and we rededicate ourselves to the fight to keep workers safe in this province, in this country, and indeed around the world. We in the labour movement have a message for our government and for employers in this province, and it's especially important related to those who have been identified as people working in essential services, whether it's frontline healthcare workers, people working in grocery stores, people working in transportation and warehousing, and yes, all those people working in meatpacking plants. At this moment, on this day, we have to rededicate ourselves to making sure that workers get home safe at the end of the day, and that means, in the current context of the COVID-19 crisis, that means that we need clearer rules. Those rules need to be enforced, and yes, if employers are not following the directives from public health officials and they're not doing everything they can to keep workers safe, then those workplaces have to be shut down. So on this day, April 28th, the day of mourning, we have to rededicate ourselves to the issue of workplace safety. And on this day and this year, as we face this terrible pandemic and the terrible losses that we've seen already, we have to support the workers who are on the front lines, and we have to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure that they can do their work safely and come home safe at the end of the day. This year, 165 Albertans lost their lives as a result of their work. These are their names. Let us remember them.
Frederick, 75, trauma.
Bruce, 73, motor vehicle accident.
Brian, age 72, respiratory disease.
Peter, 67, trauma.
Daryl, 61, motor vehicle accident.
Barry, 71, trauma.
Gary, 78, respiratory disease.
Corny, 92, trauma.
Frederick, 70, trauma.
John, 63, trauma.
David, 82, respiratory disease.
Dale, 46, trauma.
Ronald, 74, respiratory disease.
Nick, 76, respiratory disease.
Andre, 58, trauma.
Reginald, 75, respiratory disease.
Donald, 73, cancer.
Donald, 75, respiratory disease.
Michael, 69, trauma.
Myrna, 65, trauma.
Edward, 83, respiratory disease.
Brian, 70, cancer.
Donald, 82, cancer.
Peter, 67, respiratory disease.
Dale, 60, trauma.
George, 57, trauma.
Adolf, 86, respiratory disease.
Brian, 58, trauma.
Michael, 64, respiratory disease.
Tim, 55,
Trauma.
William, 77, respiratory.
Robert, 91, respiratory disease.
Joseph, 86, respiratory disease.
Donald, 75, respiratory disease.
Lloyd, 69, respiratory disease.
James, 75, respiratory disease.
Dale, 76, trauma.
Carl, 61, respiratory disease.
George, 82, respiratory disease.
Anthony, 28, trauma.
Clarence, 77, respiratory disease.
Larry, 78, respiratory disease.
Elmer, 78, cancer.
Donald, 82 years old, respiratory disease.
Greg, 54, trauma.
Wilbert, 76, cancer.
Heather, 60, cancer.
Lloyd, 78, cancer.
Nelson, 58, trauma.
Jean, 68, cancer.
Philip, 91, respiratory disease.
Kaj, 82, cancer.
Norman, 80, respiratory disease.
Reginald, 65, cancer.
Dale, 47, trauma.
Mary, 59, cancer.
Gordon, 62, respiratory disease.
Jason, 41, motor vehicle accident.
Randy, 46 years old, trauma.
Conrad, 69, cancer.
Algier, 90 years old, respiratory disease.
Leo, 83, cancer.
Vance, 70, cancer.
Florence, 75, respiratory disease.
Delbert, 76, respiratory disease.
Adolf, 90, cancer. William, 73, cancer. Gordon, 66, cancer.
Alan, 69, cancer.
Roy, 82, cancer.
David, 81, cancer.
David, 63, cancer.
David, 62, respiratory disease.
Daniel, 81, cancer.
Lyle, 63, cancer.
David, 86, respiratory disease.
Gloria, 73, cancer.
Howard, 79, cancer.
Terry, 63, trauma.
Loretto, 87, respiratory disease.
Raymond, age 72, cancer.
Roderick, 78, cancer.
Frank, 60, trauma.
Frederick, 89, respiratory disease.
Ronald, 68, Cancer.
Barry, 74, Cancer.
Wayne, 77, Cancer.
Lawrence, 76, respiratory disease.
Wayne, 72, respiratory disease. Douglas, 93, Cancer.
Scott, 60, Cancer.
Diana, 69, Trauma.
Enyete, 53, Cardiac.
Richard, 49, Cardiac.
Franklin, 73, Cancer.
Joshua, 36, motor vehicle accident.
Pawandeep, 24, motor vehicle accident.
James, 72, trauma.
Christopher, 39, trauma.
John, 60, trauma.
Timothy, 26, motor vehicle accident.
Scott, 48, Cancer.
Stephen, 69, motor vehicle accident.
Daniel, 26, motor vehicle accident.
Dylan, 33, motor vehicle accident.
Andrew, 54, motor vehicle accident.
Alan, 87, respiratory disease.
Biagio, 87, Cancer.
Robert, 64, motorcycle vehicle accident.
Christopher, 42, trauma.
Habib, 50, trauma.
Douglas, 93, Cancer.
Dave, 51, trauma.
Stephen, 37, trauma.
Kurt, 45, trauma.
Stephen, 62, Cancer.
Solomon, 38, Cardiac.
Liam, 31, trauma.
Dale, 57, trauma.
Martin, 55, trauma. Norman, 59, cardiac.
Kyle, 33, motor vehicle accident.
Nicholas, 37, motor vehicle accident. Peter, 50, motor vehicle accident.
John, 69, cardiac.
Thomas, 63, trauma.
Jonathan, 24, trauma.
Darminder, 47, motor vehicle accident.
Gregory, 41, trauma.
Shane, 43, trauma. Frederick, 67, Cancer.
Brian, 56, motor vehicle accident.
Theodore, 87, Cancer.
Stephen, 56, motor vehicle accident.
Brian, 40, trauma.
Robert, 60, circulatory.
Joseph, 72, Cancer.
William, 45, motor vehicle accident.
Scott, 22, motor vehicle accident.
Tofig, 42, trauma.
Abram, 44, trauma.
Edward, 71, trauma.
Damon, 44, motor vehicle accident.
Brian, 68, motor vehicle accident.
Gerald, 78, cancer. John, 86, cancer.
Bhupinder, 58, trauma.
Henry, 54, trauma.
Christy, 37, cancer.
Kyle, age 29, motor vehicle accident.
Brian, 52, trauma.
Haptum, 38, trauma.
Robert, 48, trauma.
Debbie, 47, trauma.
Larry, 73, cancer.
Dwight, 56, motor vehicle accident.
Alethea, 74, cancer.
Dane, 35, trauma.
Bobby, 32, trauma.
Jason, 39, trauma.
Sandeep, 25, trauma.
Sikander, 38, motor vehicle accident.
Kamaljit, 31, motor vehicle accident.
Hitu La, 31, trauma.
Matthew, 31, motor vehicle accident.